Talking about some good stuff, some controversial stuff here, Jorge. This gets a lot of couples into some arguments.
Look, I think it's good to compromise and have these discussions because, look, you get engaged, you're excited about the planning of the wedding, starting a new life together, but look, there's some very important conversations to have and to figure out before saying I do. One of those is money. Josh Kuhbander is a director for consumer banking at Bank of America. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Jorge. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, Josh. Look, money is a sensitive subject. When you're bringing two entities together, just like two companies, you bring them together, you got to put everything on the table. But sometimes that conversation is not easy to have. I'm going to start there. And it's a very difficult question because it's the one that is the icebreaker. How do you get that conversation going for those couples out there?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Jorge. It's probably a scary conversation to talk about your own finances, but even more, intimidating to have the conversation around joint finances together. And I think the biggest thing that a lot of couples don't do is the communication factor. Typically in most relationships or couples, there's typically one that likes to live for the here and now, and many that may want to live for the later, right? One that likes experiences, maybe one that looks for more of the objects. And communication is probably the number one thing that has to happen there, and what we're looking to have from just our day-to-day lives, right? That's probably the biggest thing, followed by just getting to an important budget, right? Depending on the finances, whether you've merged your finances or you haven't merged your finances, understanding who's going to pay for what, how it's going to be delegated, how you're going to pay for different things when you go out. That's another piece as well that can lead to some disagreements. And I think lastly is just having a planning conversation, planning out for the future. What's important for you, what your goals are, what joint goals you have, and what individual goals you have.
I chuckled there for a minute because you mentioned experiences and objects. My wife and I, we chat all the time, and I'm like, this would be a great trip. Meanwhile, there's like other things, material things that I'm like, is that there? But those are some of the compromises, some of the conversations you have to have. You brought up a good point there. When it comes to like bills and mortgages and different things, utilities and whatnot, you're no longer with a roommate. Some people used to Venmo somebody or to split a bill for a roommate. Would you recommend a joint account, separate accounts? Do you still split things differently? How does that conversation and solution come?
Yeah, so I think you brought up a good point there that every couple, young couple, they have fixed expenses and then you have discretionary expenses. Ensuring that you have a good understanding of what your fixed expenses are and how those are going to come out first before you pay your discretionary is important. And then bringing up what you talked about there when it comes down to the different things of how you merge finances. There's not a one-size-fits-all when you think about merging or keeping finances separately, as long as the balance of incomes are consistent, right? Because one spouse or one partner may have a different leveling income versus the other.
Correct.
And depending on how the finances and the bills are split, you could end up with disagreements there based on the level of discretionary income they have to be able to do their activities or their wants and their desires. So it's important that you look at your debt first, being number one. Number two, you look at the budget and you talk specifically around how are we going to budget this money out, especially if you have your finances separately. And then most importantly and last is have that plan that's in place. Talk to a financial advisor, understand how you're going to plan for those goals, how you're going to be incorporating the finances, who's going to be putting money into the different pieces of those buckets.
Real quick, you touched on something super important, which is tackling debt first and the importance of tackling debt first before you tackle some other stuff. Bank of America has bettermoneyhabits.com. I have about 30 seconds left. Tell the people what that's all about.
Yeah, so we have bettermoneyhabits.com. It's a free resource out there for a lot of our clients and people in the Charlotte community to go out and be able to get the resources they need to have the conversations they're having. But then most importantly, Bank of America provides free workshops out there if you'd like to attend something in person, or you can always set up some time with one of our financial professionals in one of our centers to have that deeper conversation.
The key word here, the common thread, conversation, Kristen. That's what it's all about, just putting it on the table and creating a plan.
I know, it's so hard to have those convos, though.
It is.
All of the information right there on your screen. Thank you both so much.